Welcome back, my fellow West Ham supporter. Go ahead and drop a like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. That helps strengthen the claret and blue chain, making our club bigger and stronger every day. West Ham fans, you know as well as I do that when the transfer window gets close, our hearts start to race. Because at West Ham, it's never just about signing a player. It's about intent. It's about ambition. It's about understanding whether the club just wants to survive or take the next step. And that's why the news that's been going around lately caught everyone's attention. West Ham are being linked to a potential player plus cash deal to sign a top-level striker. And the name in question is Vitor Roque. Yes, Vitor Roque, a name many know, but few truly understand how big his potential is. The lad emerged in Brazil as one of the brightest talents of his generation. He started at América Mineiro, broke through at Cruzeiro, and truly exploded at Atlético Paranaense. And look, it wasn't just the goals that drew attention, but his style of play. Strength, explosiveness, intelligent movement, and a natural striker's instinct. One of those players you see on the pitch and think, this one's going places. He quickly caught the attention of Brazil's youth national teams and soon enough reached the senior squad. Not many managed that so early. Barcelona saw his potential and decided to invest heavily. And here's an important point: the amount paid for him was sky high. They believed they were getting the next big South American star. But European football isn't always that simple. At Barcelona, Vitor Roque had few chances to prove himself. He couldn't find his place, didn't fully adapt to the team's style, and was soon seen as not ready. Instead of being given patience, he was loaned to Real Betis. But once again, his playing time was limited. Minutes were scarce and the spotlight faded. That hyped-up youngster everyone expected to shine in Europe suddenly seemed to have disappeared. But football's a funny thing. Sometimes to take 2 steps forward, you've got to take 1 back. And that's what he did. Instead of insisting on warming the bench, he decided to return to Brazil to regain confidence, rhythm, and most importantly, goals. And that's exactly what happened at Palmeiras. There, he became a key player again, scoring, playing with freedom, showing the same physical power and movement that once enchanted Europe. In no time, he became an important part of the team and showed that his talent had never gone away. He just needed the right environment. And this is exactly where West Ham come into the picture. The club are keeping a close eye on the situation. And there's something important at stake. Palmeiras might be open to listening to offers for the player, especially if the deal involves a familiar face. Luis Guilherme. And here's where it gets interesting. Luis Guilherme left Palmeiras as a promising talent, joined West Ham with big expectations, but hasn't really taken off here. He didn't find his place under Graham Potter, didn't fit under Lopetegui either, and is now seen as someone with potential but no clear spot in the starting 11. So we've got 2 players with almost mirrored stories. Vitor Roque, who left Brazil as a star, struggled in Europe and went back to rebuild his confidence. And Luis Guilherme, who left Brazil as a prospect, came to Europe but hasn't yet shown everything he can do. It's almost like a swap of paths. That's why people are talking about a possible player plus cash deal. West Ham would send Luis Guilherme back to Palmeiras, and in return bring in Vitor Roque, with some money added to balance things out. Sounds bold? Of course. But sometimes in football, the boldest deals are the ones that make all the difference. And here I want to pause for a second and chat with you, the more experienced fan who's seen West Ham hit and miss in the market over the years. When was the last time the club went after a young striker with the potential to become one of the best in the league, but who's already shown he can perform at a high level? You don't get names like that available every day. What's more, Vitor Roque's playing style could fit perfectly in the Premier League. He's strong enough to handle the physicality, fast enough to attack, space sharp inside the box, and capable of pressing defenders. He's that kind of modern forward who can do a bit of everything, something highly valued these days. Now you might be wondering, why would Palmeiras agree to sell a player who's performing so well? Simple, they love bringing back talents they know well. They've got a track record of re-signing players who came through their academy. And Luis Guilherme was one of their own. They know what he's capable of. They believe in his potential. And if he returns to an environment where he already feels comfortable, he could really flourish. So both clubs have reasons to talk. Both players have reasons to consider the move. And if West Ham play their cards right, they could turn a tricky situation into a great opportunity. But it's not that straightforward. There's one key factor: performance until January, because how Luis Guilherme performs between now and then could define the direction of this deal. If he starts playing well, maybe West Ham will hesitate to include him in a swap. If he keeps struggling for minutes, he could become a trade piece. And the same goes for Vitor Roque. If he keeps scoring for Palmeiras, his value will rise. So we're looking at a proper game of chess here. And my friend West Ham need to make the right move, because a top striker can completely change the team's level. And this deal, as bold as it sounds, makes sense. It's got logic, context, and real potential to work out brilliantly. And that's exactly why I'm telling you, keep an eye on this name. Vitor Roque might be much more than just a rumor. He could be the key to a new era for West Ham's attack. But is he really worth it? Is he the number 9 we've been looking for? Or is it just too much of a gamble? Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. When we take a closer look at the name Vitor Roque, we realize we're not talking about just any player. We're talking about a young, strong, mobile, aggressive striker who knows how to play with his back to goal attack spaces with pace and has a real hunger to score. He's the kind of player who takes responsibility, who doesn't hide, who relishes physical battles and plays with personality. And that in English football counts for a lot. The Premier League is an intense league, maybe the most intense in the world. It's not enough to be skillful or technical. You need explosiveness, stamina, and courage. And Vitor Roque has already shown in Brazil that he's not afraid of contact, that he can shield the ball battle with taller defenders and strike with power. He's not that static striker who just waits for service. He's involved in the game all the time, moving behind defenses, linking up play, pressing the opposition. He's a modern forward, and that's exactly the type of striker West Ham have been missing. In recent years, we've had talented players, but too often predictable ones. We've had target men stuck up front, isolated, waiting for crosses. When the team tried to play on the ground, there was no one to connect midfield and attack. And when playing on the counter, we lacked someone who could attack space with aggression and speed. Vitor Roque could bring precisely that versatility. He can be the main striker, drift wide, hold up play, or create space for others. In a side with clever players like Bowen and Paquetá, that could be devastating. Picture Bowen finding space because the striker drags defenders away. Picture Paquetá threading passes through the lines while the forward moves to disrupt the defensive shape. That's exactly the sort of dynamic he can offer. But there's something even more important: mentality. Vitor Roque is a competitor. He plays with energy, intensity, and hunger. And West Ham fans value that above everything else. You can be skillful, you can be technical, but if you don't show fight, the fans won't take to you. This lad shows desire in every play. That's why many believe he could be one of those players who quickly connect with the supporters. Of course, there's another side to the story. We can't ignore the risks. Because if he didn't make it at Barcelona and didn't shine at Real Betis, will it work in the Premier League? Does he have the patience to adapt to a new country, a new culture, a new style of play? And does West Ham have the structure to develop a player like him? Those are fair questions. But we've got to look at the context. When he joined Barcelona, he was very young and arrived at a club in crisis. Constant managerial changes, huge pressure, and a squad packed with forwards. At Real Betis, he didn't find a stable environment either, nor consistent minutes. So he didn't fail because he lacks talent. He just never had continuity. When he went back to Brazil, he found his rhythm again. Confidence and goals returned. That shows he never lost his instinct or ability. He just needed a place where he was a priority, and West Ham could offer exactly that: a leading role. Speaking of a leading role, we need to think about how this potential signing could affect the current squad. Because if Vitor Roque arrives, it won't be to sit on the bench. He'd come to start to be the team's number 9. That means the tactical system could change. It means players like Bowen could play with more freedom. It means Paquetá would have a smart partner to link up with. And there's more if the club really are willing to include Luis Guilherme in the deal. That shows the coaching staff have already identified a profile that fits better with what they want. Luis Guilherme has talent, no doubt about that. But so far he hasn't found his feet in the Premier League. Maybe he needs more time. Maybe he needs a different environment. Maybe he needs confidence. And Palmeiras could offer exactly that. At the same time, West Ham might be focusing on the present, and right now they need a striker ready to make an impact. What makes this possible deal even more interesting is that it's not just financial, it's strategic. The club wouldn't just be buying, they'd be trading qualities. They'd be saying we need a finisher, someone who attacks space, who fights with defenders, who puts fear into opponents. And Vitor Roque could be that man. But there's one important detail: the success of this idea depends heavily on the manager. To get the best out of a forward like him, you need a tactical setup that suits his strengths. He's not a static target man. He needs movement, close teammates, and creativity around him. He needs a side that plays with intelligence. And West Ham are trying to become that team. Lately, we've clearly seen a shift in the club's identity. West Ham are trying to stop being only reactive and defensive. They want to be more proactive, balanced, modern. Players like Paquetá and Bowen already show that. The arrival of a striker like Vitor Roque would be another big step in that direction. And what's fascinating is that if you think about it, this deal could benefit everyone. Palmeiras would get back a homegrown talent and some cash. West Ham would get a forward with star potential. Vitor Roque would have the chance to establish himself in Europe. Luis Guilherme would return to a familiar environment where he could rebuild. It's one of those rare cases where everyone could win. But as always, it all depends on courage. It depends on West Ham looking at this opportunity and saying, let's go for it. Because in football, if you're afraid to take risks, you get left behind. And this might just be the perfect time to make a bold move, one that could transform the team's attack for years to come. If there's one thing West Ham's history teaches us, it's that when the club believes in a player and gives him the space to shine, great things happen. The fans know how to recognize talent and effort, and Vitor Roque has both. There are still plenty of questions in the air. Is it worth giving up a prospect like Luis Guilherme? Is it worth investing money in a player who's already struggled in Europe? Is he really ready for the Premier League? Could he be the striker to take West Ham to the next level? Those are fair doubts. But sometimes the answer isn't in the fear of failure. It's in the courage to see potential. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. When we talk about a possible move for Vitor Roque, we're talking about more than just a signing. We're talking about a message to the squad, a message to the fans, a message to the market, because every big signing says a lot about a club's mentality. And the big question is West Ham thinking small or thinking big? The arrival of a striker of this level would show that the club no longer wants to be just competitive, but to become a contender. And being a contender means investing in players who can change games, decide competitions, and become reference points. West Ham fans, especially those who followed the club for decades, know we've always had warriors. We've always had heart. But we haven't always had that striker who puts fear into opponents. A name that makes other teams worry before the match even begins. Could Vitor Roque be that name? Maybe. He's got rare qualities. He's physically strong but also quick. He finishes well but also moves intelligently. He can play through the middle or drift wide. He's got that striker's instinct that can't be taught. And above all, he's still young enough to get even better. Of course, nothing in football is guaranteed. And that's why we need to analyze not just the player but the context. Because the success of any signing depends on the environment, the manager, the tactical setup, the patience, the way the club develops the player. And here's the key question, is West Ham ready to nurture this kind of talent? In recent years, we've seen the club give chances to promising youngsters, but we've also seen some of them fail to settle. Some because of lack of minutes, others because of adaptation, issues, or poor decisions from the coaching staff. Let's be honest, developing young players takes conviction. There's no point signing Vitor Roque and leaving him on the bench expecting him to win games in the final 10 minutes. If he comes, he needs to be treated as a key player. That's the difference between gambling and believing. And that's exactly why the possible inclusion of Luis Guilherme in the deal shows that the club is ready to make tough choices. Luis Guilherme is talented, no doubt, but maybe he doesn't fit the current plan. If West Ham are really willing to let him go to bring in Vitor Roque, it means there's a clear idea of the kind of team they want to build. One that's more direct, more aggressive, more vertical. A side that attacks with intensity, constant movement, and frequent finishing. Now think about the impact that would have on players like Bowen and Paquetá. Bowen, already decisive, would have someone to share attacking responsibility with. Paquetá, who often carries the creative load, would have an intelligent target to link up with. That would take pressure off both and make the attack far more unpredictable. When a team has multiple threats, it's much harder to mark. Right now, opponents often know exactly who to close down. With Vitor Roque, everything could change. But it's not just about attacking play. There's also the psychological side. West Ham fans are passionate, but they're demanding too. They love players who fight, who work hard, who wear the shirt with pride. And that's where Vitor Roque fits perfectly. He's not a lazy forward. He presses, runs, tracks back. He's the type of player fans respect even if he doesn't score every week. And when the supporters get behind a player like that, the whole club grows stronger. It's important to say, though, if this deal doesn't happen, West Ham can't stand still. Because the need for a top striker is obvious. If it's not Vitor Roque, someone else has to fill that role. The market offers different options. Experienced forwards with Premier League know-how who can deliver right away, and young prospects from other leagues who could be surprises. The key is not to treat this window as an ordinary one, because it isn't. West Ham are at a turning point. We're no longer the club just fighting to stay up. We're no longer just outsiders. We're regularly in the mix for European spots. We've won a continental trophy recently. We've got international players. We're respected. Now we need to turn that respect into ambition. Bringing in a big-name striker is the kind of move that tells the squad the club wants to grow. It tells the fans there's a plan. It tells the market West Ham are alive. And it tells the manager he'll have the tools to work with. And speaking of the manager, that's another crucial point. Because West Ham's next step depends not just on players but on ideas. The club needs a clear philosophy, a recognizable playing style and balance between defense and attack. And a top-level number 9 is central to all of that. When the attack clicks, the whole team breathes easier. The midfield gains confidence. The defense feels more secure. And the fans feed off that energy. A great striker changes the entire atmosphere around a club, and Vitor Roque has that kind of potential. But beyond potential, he's got something you can't buy: hunger. He wants to return to Europe to prove himself. He wants to play at the top level. He wants to be remembered. Players with that drive are dangerous, and if West Ham can channel that hunger within a smart system, something very special could be about to happen. The truth is, the club are facing a rare opportunity. On one side, a talent who's rediscovered himself in Brazil and is ready for the next step. On the other, a clear need in the squad for exactly that profile. And in the middle, a deal that could benefit everyone involved. Football isn't just about numbers, it's about timing. And this moment feels perfect. The only question left is, will West Ham have the courage to take it? Because in the end, what separates clubs that grow from those that stagnate isn't just money. It's vision. It's boldness. It's knowing when to act. And maybe this is the opportunity we've been waiting for all these years. And that's all for today's West Ham news. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with fellow fans, and of course subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Come on, you Irons!